brothers and sisters, I am deeply privileged to be able to call myself a Somalilander.
For more than 3 decades, Somaliland has existed as a self-governing state in the Horn of Africa. It has its own currency, its own military, its own elections, and one of the most stable democratic systems in the region. Yet despite all of that, the world still refuses to recognize it.
A nation that at its very heart has freedom, has free speech, has fairness, and has the rule of law at the heart of it.
But now, voices inside the British Parliament are beginning to speak louder. That right there is Sir Gavin Williamson, a British Member of Parliament who has repeatedly called for the UK to formally recognise Somaliland. Unlike many politicians who briefly mention the issue, Williamson has continued campaigning for recognition publicly and consistently.
But the challenge, the fight, goes on, because for far too long, people have not been willing to do that simple act of recognising Somaliland. That means that we have to fight harder. And we have seen the courage of one nation in Israel make the right decision to recognise. But this has to be the first of many. So as I stand before you this evening, one thing I can pledge to you, Mr. President, is I will continue to do everything that I can to work tirelessly to make sure that we deliver not just what is right, but what is essential, to make sure that the beacon of light that is Somaliland continues to burn bright for generations ahead.
He frames this not just as a policy choice, but as a debt of honour. To understand why this matters, you first have to understand Somaliland itself. Somaliland was once the British Somaliland Protectorate, a separate territory from Italian Somaliland. In 1960, British Somaliland briefly became independent before voluntarily joining with the South to create Somalia. But after decades of instability, dictatorship and civil war, Somaliland declared its sovereignty restored in 1991. Since then, it has built its own government and maintained relative stability, separate from the chaos of the South. It has created institutions that function with the maturity of any recognised nation. Recognition remains the biggest obstacle. Without it, Somaliland struggles to access global financial systems and diplomatic legitimacy. This isolation persists despite Somaliland demonstrating the very stability many recognised states still struggle to achieve. In Somaliland, elections are not just events, they are a testament to their internal governance. But recognition is not just about history, it is also geopolitical. Somaliland sits in one of the most strategic locations on Earth. It sits near the route connecting the Red Sea to global trade. As powers compete for influence, this importance only grows. As global powers compete for influence across the Horn of Africa, Somaliland can no longer be ignored. For many Somalilanders, recognition is not simply about politics, it is about identity, about being seen. How long can a nation exist before the world finally recognizes it? The question continues to grow louder. Somaliland is waiting.
But the challenge, the fight, goes on, because for far too long, people have not been willing to do that simple act of recognising Somaliland.